Dave couldn't stay back in the living room to watch the TV, so he went back to the bedroom to pick up his laptop and did nothing but stare at it. He was traumatized by what he saw earlier. He couldn't just focus on anything. His mind kept drifting back to the calabash. So, these guys are diabolic. Could that be the reason why they have been cashing out and nothing was coming my way? He was so lost in thought that he didn't even notice when Biola came inside to pick something. Guy, how far? This one you look this way. Hope all is well. Dave was startled to hear his voice. Sorry, what did you say? Did you get blocked by your client or what? No, nobody blocked me, Dave said. So what have you been thinking? You didn't even notice when I came in here, Biola asked. Nothing much, Dave said. I doubt that. You look worried, guy. E dey your face. He was right. Dave was worried. But how do he tell him that? He was confused because of what he saw out there. Guy, my clients never paid for months now, he told Biola, covering up. That's normal. That's why you need to plus up. Biola revealed, and Dave was shocked to his bone marrow. Ah? Plus up? How? Dave acted like he didn't know what he was saying. I'm sure Kola should have explained this one to you. No, he didn't tell me about it. He's your guy. Go and meet him. He will explain better to you. Boy, you can tell me. If it's what I can do, let me know. Biola didn't say anything again. Instead, he walked out of the bedroom and back to the living room. Ah, so this is real. Yahoo Plus. My God. Dave's heart kept pounding. I have never been involved in any diabolic stuff before. And from the stories I had, it never ends well. The repercussions had always been terrible. Dave was still lost in thought when Smith called him, and out of the worried mood, he forgot to tune his voice like that of a lady before answering him, and before he realized it, he had spoken a few words to him. Boom! He got angry and became suspicious. He tried convincing him that the voice he heard earlier was from a movie he was seeing, but he wouldn't buy his excuses at all. At that point, he knew he had fucked up already. There was no way he would believe him. He started ranting, saying he had always suspected that he was a scammer, but couldn't just figure it out, coupled with the pictures he do send to him. Smith kept screaming, calling Dave names. You wretched scammer, return my money or I report you to the authorities, blah 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 blah. Dave kept telling him he wasn't a scammer and tried all his best to calm him down, but Baba no one hear anything. He just kept shouting like mumu. Damn, Dave was so heartbroken. Smith was the only client he had hoped on. If he had agreed, or perhaps sent that flight money, his life would have changed for good. But now, it is over. He felt his heart thudding against his ribs. He couldn't continue the call since he didn't believe all his lies. So, he quickly went to the living room and informed Biola. He just laughed and told Dave to block the man, in his words. He said he should block him first on Facebook so that he won't report his account, which would lead to Facebook blocking it. See, if you had tied him down, this man won't doubt anything you tell him. Biola continued to shock Dave. Dave was just speechless, staring at him. I don't think any white man would ever be so stupid to trust you that much without seeing you in a video call. Besides, he already sent you money the first time, and he would want to see your face before sending you any funds again. Biola continued. He went on to say that some of them have thousands of dollars in their account, while some even have millions. Biola told Dave a story about his client who sent him pennies weekly, not until the very day he tied him down. That was the day the man gave him access to his bank account. He said he was shocked to see that the man had almost $300,000 in his account. Wow, Dave exclaimed. You can imagine, he said. So what did you do? Biola laughed and cleared his throat. I wiped everything gradually, he announced without remorse. Jesus, dude, that's a lot of money. Dave was going to say, you are heartless, so, but he refrained his tongue before he got flared up. Well, you are just starting. Very soon, your mind go dey full, he said and giggled. Hmm. Besides, these people have insurance covering them up. They have hope unlike us, Biola said, trying to justify his acts. Bank insurance? When he was the one who willingly gave you his bank details. I'm not sure insurance covers this aspect, Dave replied to him. Keep speaking grammar. I have told you what you don't know. He left. Dave did as he said and quickly blocked Smith on Facebook, but man, he really felt bad. So hot, like one suffering from heartbreak. There was no hope of cashing out. The wire stuff wasn't coming through as well. He became restless and felt like he shouldn't have indulged in this stuff in the first place. Gosh, he was having a bad day. He lay on the bed but couldn't sleep. His heart was heavy as a stone. He decided he would go out and take one or two bottles of Heineken. Maybe that would help the situation. Why not call that girl? The second thought that rushed through his head. He went into the bathroom and had a cool shower. When finally he got dressed, he scrolled through his dials and found her contact, which he saved as Dubliner Girl. As soon as he rang her, she picked up immediately. Hello, Kelvin. She addressed him by the wrong name he gave her. What's up? Are you free? Yeah, anything for your girl. They chit-chat for 1 minute before he told her that he wanted them to meet at the same location. I'll be there in 25 minutes, she said. Dave could feel she was excited. Why wouldn't she? When he paid her well the last time. He buckled his belt and told Biola he was going out and would be back the next morning. The time was 8:15 when Dave set out to Dubliner Hotel on a mission to meet with the girl without a name. He boarded a taxi as usual and got there after about a 25-minute drive. He got down and paid the taxi driver. The environment bubbled with loud music, and just the moment he looked up, he saw three uniformed men coming out from the hotel. EFCC was boldly written on the apron they wore. For the sake of non-Nigerians, EFCC stands for Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. You already know what they stand against, right? Dave quickly felt his pocket, and at that moment, it was down on him that he had messed up his life. He came out with his working phone, which was the iPhone. What is happening to me today? He never came out with that phone until that unfortunate day. He quickly turned to walk away from their direction, but sadly, they already saw him, and one called him immediately. Even if he decided to man up and walk past them, he knew they would still call for his attention. It was something they see every day on the roads. God, he almost peed on his trousers when he turned to behold the three of them looking mean. Their faces weren't clear in the dark background. He looked to Dave's left and saw their healers parked there with two scapegoats in handcuffs. He was vibrating and couldn't think of his next move. If only he had Marlene's power. Young man, why did you turn away? Asked the first officer. Nothing, he stammered. What do you have there? He asked. I don't have anything in me. Let's have your phone. Dave's heart skipped a beat on hearing that. He put his hand in his pocket and brought out his old phone. Here it is. Dave handed it to him. He went through it in a jiffy and then stepped forward. He felt David's pocket until he found the iPhone in his back pocket. Gosh, I'm doomed. You might be wondering if they have the right to go through Dave's phone. Well, this is Nigeria. The uniformed men feel they can always harass the citizens and go through their phones because of the high rate of crime. Unlock your phone, ordered the officer. At that point, Dave knew he was finished. Maybe he should have just stayed back and sleep. He watched as the officer scrolled through his phone and then his gallery. Dave wished the land could open and swallow him. Kola had always warned him not to go out with his working phone, but unfortunately, it was his first time and he didn't intend to go out with it. Hard luck. "Oh, no wonder he saw us and wanted to run away," said the officer as he continued to scroll through Dave's iPhone. "Take him to the hillocks. He has a lot to explain," the officer ordered. Dave couldn't talk. He was just dumbfounded. And then his phone rang. He already knew who was calling. "His girlfriend is calling, Dubliner girl," said the officer jokingly when he glanced at Dave's phone screen. The other two officers bursted in laughter. They felt mocked and ridiculed. They led Dave to the hillocks while his phone continued to ring. What a day! Smith had blocked him earlier and now this. That very night, they also arrested three boys, making it a total of six of them. As they drove by, Dave kept wondering how this would end. What would he tell his mom and his dad? He was beginning to feel bad for himself. Initially, he had thought he had automatic grace, but not knowing the devil was only setting him up for disaster. Lots of thoughts conflicted in his head. Calmly, seated and cuffed inside the hillocks, which looked like a brand new one. The factory nylons were still intact, and it got this new car smell. This had to be the most uncomfortable ride in a very long time. Dave couldn't even tell where they were driving them to. The atmosphere was just calm, and none of them said anything to them as they drove on the cold, tarred road. He guessed it should be around 9 p.m. or thereabouts. They had taken his two phones, so there was no way he could detect what time it was. Even his wristwatch wasn't on him as well. Then, he didn't know what to expect. He hadn't been in this kind of situation before all his life. No police case, nothing of such at all. He had zero crime records, but today was different. He have only read stories about how the EFCC raids hotels and sometimes clubs and other public places. Sad to know that all these tales were what he would experience in no time. After about a 30-minute drive, they went to what looked like their quarter. It was getting real, and they felt pressed at that moment. He really wished this wasn't happening. The hillocks drove into their quarters, made its way from the cross section at the gate to another section with interrogation boldly written on it, and it finally came to a halt. "Get down," said one of the officers who had them queued in a single line. He then took about three shots of them. The background was dark, so he used flash which glimmered in their faces. The next thing, they singled Dave out from the line and led the rest to a separate building while he was made to come inside the interrogation block. Dave's heart kept panting faster. Why only me? Is this how I'm going to end up? Well, he couldn't cry at the same time. He was just numb. They took him to an empty room without windows. The only thing he saw there was two seats, a table and a lamp that freely hung above his head. "Sit there," came the commanding harsh tone from one of the officers. Dave sat there with his both hands cuffed and they all left. 3 hours and counting, he was seated there. His buttocks was already itching him, and he was tired of sitting. He was just thinking about his life and how bad it went in a few months, the effect of peer pressure. Finally, they came in looking mean. One of them sat directly opposite Dave and looked him straight in the eyes for like 10 seconds before averting his eyes. He then brought out a flat file from dozens of documents and placed one of them before Dave. And that was how the interrogation process began. From one question to another, they demanded nothing but the truth from Dave. Well, Dave was naive and scared. He told them he was just starting and hadn't made any money. However, they didn't believe him as they went through his phone. While they interrogated Dave, other boys were brought in, so he was beginning to feel the room was for interrogation. Let me just go straight to the point and abridge the long process. The truth is, some of these EFCC officers are actually the biggest scammers. They were forced to empty their accounts for the EFCC operatives. Some even have their cars disposed by them after collecting cash and their gadgets from them. Dave gets the unfortunate ones are the ones who get prosecuted for the media effect, just like one stubborn dude among them who refused to dance to their music. They took him out, bet he will have it hot with them. Sadly, these people emptied all the money in Dave's account and likewise the remaining four boys. Their laptops and phones too. Luckily, they returned Dave's other phone, but he bid his iPhone goodbye. They said they were just going to pity them and save them from the cottage after they had emptied everything in their bank account. At one point, Dave was thinking if they were the real EFCC or fake. It was the police that he knew that did all this kind of stuff. He never knew EFCC were that corrupt too. Dave bets the government is also benefiting from cyber criminals because he was sure all these seized funds goes to these officials, which includes car and other big gadgets. But if only they showed the same zeal in arresting all those corrupt politicians too, maybe the country would have been a better place. Long story short, very early in the morning, they dropped the five of them at the major road and asked them to go and see no more. It was a moment of mixed feelings for Dave, he must say, because he was happy they were set free and didn't go further to be prosecuted and all that court stuff. But all his money was wiped and his iPhone was gone as well. A memorable day that he wished never happened. Where do I go from here? He was feeling sick already. His temperature was high and his eyes hurt so badly because they weren't able to sleep throughout the night. When they dropped them off, it was around 5:30 a.m. When Dave checked his other phone, the other guys went their way home, all man on their own feeling sober. Dave had to call Kola. He narrated his ordeal to him. He said he would come pick him up in the next few minutes. Biola had informed him that he said he would be back the next morning like he informed him while he was leaving that night to meet with the nameless girl. 15 minutes later, Kola arrived with his Lexus 350. Biola was with him in the front seat. Dave hopped in the back seat and he quickly reversed and set off, speeding on the tarred road. The duo didn't say anything to Dave and he couldn't even utter a word as well. Silence accompanied them until he drove back to his apartment. I don't know who she is, but the girl you are meeting with has bad luck, Kola said when he stepped inside the living room where Dave was seated, speechless with lots of voices saying this and that. Yahoo is not for everybody. Go back to your uncle. Yet another voice was saying, it was time to plus up. What will you tell your people? Then, Kola went further to say that he fucked up by going out with his phone. Secondly, his problem started after he slept outside. He said the bad luck came from whoever he slept with, which led to Smith having issue with him and finding out he wasn't real, and from there down to the EFCC issue. That girl is not good for you, man. Not all sockets you plug your phone, he said in parables. Dave wondered why he was putting all the blame on the nameless girl. Well, what do I know? So, what's next now? I'm so broke now, everything is gone. Dave said after minutes of silence. Well, you just have to plus up, man. At least to clear your way and all the bad luck you have contaminated these days. They finally heard from the horse's mouth. Goosebumps here and there. Plus up, me? Maybe I'll just go home, confess my sins and be free. I don't want to commit any evil. He had thought in his heart, well, the choice is yours. If you want to go back to your trenches, fine, Kola said, as if he had everything Dave said in his thoughts, and that made Dave more terrified than ever. He stood up and walked inside the bedroom. Later in the day, Biola came out and asked if Dave had eaten anything. He told him he hadn't. Dave was even surprised at his sudden caring manner. Well, maybe because he knew he was penniless at that moment. So, they left and got to one popular Indomie joint. He then placed orders for both of them. While they waited for the food, Biola asked what he had decided to do with his life. Bro, I want to go back to my uncle, Dave said after a moment of silence. Just like that, and start life again. What do you have me do then? Obviously, Yahoo is not for me. Shh. Biola cautioned Dave to lower his voice. He was about to speak when the Aboki served them the hot noodles. So he said they should eat and talk later. He also got soft drinks for them, which they used to flush down the noodles. As they walked back to Kola's apartment, he began again. Dave, why do you want to go back to your uncle? What will you be doing there? Silence. See, what lies ahead is better than what you just lost. Now you just lose guard, carry your phone comot. He added in pidgin English. So, are you suggesting that I do rituals because of money? You are the one calling it ritual. Nobody said anything about ritual. Just to clear your bad luck and make your life easier so your client wouldn't be hard to convince, he narrated. Bro, my mind is heavy about this one. I don't know what you are saying. Dave, you be Jew man. You won't go hide under your uncle, but take my advice. Stay in jungle and face life. No retreat, no surrender. Dave didn't say anything and he spoke further. Can't you see the way Kola is balling and enjoying life? He's your guy. He won't deceive you. As they strode, Dave kept thinking about all the things he was saying. There were so many questions running back and forth in his head. Biola then said he would soon leave Kola's apartment to rent his apartment and start a business too. According to him, flossing up would pave the way for him. Dave was very confused and didn't know what next to do. When they got back to Kola's apartment, he went straight to the bedroom and fell tiredly on the bed, confused and tired of life. Inasmuch as he wanted to go back to his uncle, he still detested poverty and everything that comes with it. Where will he start life again after tasting the good life? He was so disturbed. So, Dave picked up his phone to pass the time and depression. He scrolled through his music app, plugged it in his earphones to his ears, and Lucky Dube's track filled his head. He left Kola's apartment to go see his father, since his apartment wasn't far from here. He planned to stay there for the weekend and cool off since he had nothing to do with his life anymore. He knew he would probably think he came to see him as usual. Meanwhile, Biola had assisted Dave with 5,000 naira, which he used as tife, and also bought bread, which he would give his father. So, Dave set off on the hot scorching sun and boarded a taxi, intending to pay his dad a surprise visit. Moments later, he arrived at his rented apartment. First, he noticed people were crowded in the compound from the gate. He could hear noises from inside. What's happening here today? He said to himself. Dave noticed the way people were looking at him, and that got him even confused. Surprisingly, when he stepped in, his siblings were the first people he sighted. They were really crying, and his heart kept pounding faster. Joy, what's happening here? And why are you guys crying? She couldn't speak. Rather, she kept sobbing and eventually pointed towards the entrance of their father's room. Yes, so what happened? Joy didn't say anything. Instead, she kept crying. Dave's heart was just pounding faster and faster. What could have happened? He didn't expect to see them here at all. So he walked towards the entrance of his father's apartment, and that was when he overheard his mom's voice. She was really crying, and that made his heart fly. Dave threw his small bag on the floor and ran inside quickly. Lo and behold, his father was lying lifeless inside the room. Jesus! Dave screamed, and his eyes gradually opened. What a dream this hot afternoon! He felt his heart, and it kept pounding faster. What sort of dream is this? God forbid. I won't lose my father, he said. Or could it be because of my sleeping position? Because anytime I sleep on my back, facing the ceiling, I would always end up having a bad dream. Dave quickly dialed his mom's number, and when she picked up, he told her about the dream. Dave's mom was religious, so she rebuked it and prayed against it. The devil is a liar. Nothing will happen to him, she prayed. While she was praying, Dave's headtime got exhausted and the phone hung up. Dave left the room to the sitting room, and this time it was just him in the house. He sat on the sofa. Even though the TV was on, he couldn't concentrate. He sat there, just thinking about his life, asking himself just one question: when will I make it again? Do I have to plus up? What about the repercussions? But Kola said there was no repercussions, since they are not using anybody's blood. The thought was gradually building up in his head, and he was giving it a thought. These guys were chopping life, and he had nothing on him. Then he remembered his guy Osaz. Hope you still remember him. He quickly dialed his number. The dude was happy to hear Dave's voice again. They exchanged pleasantries so well. How have you been, my guy? Hope you have gotten the latest car in town. He teased Dave. Life is not like that though. Dave just laughed. Dave went further to tell him about his ordeal at the moment and how he ended up in the EFCC quarter. He also told him what his guys were suggesting and asked if it was the right decision. Dave, you may not believe it, but I plussed up too. I was even surprised you were cashing out without plussing up because ordinary Yahoo no longer yields anything. These people are getting wiser and no longer fall prey, he revealed. Damn, even Osaz plus up too, and he never told him. He then narrated his story, how he went to one wise man in his hometown in Benin. He said if Dave was interested, he should let him know so he would take him to the place. I'm not sure I'm interested though, Dave said. Silence. How about my uncle? Dave said, trying to change the topic of their discussion. He's fine, he replied lamely. Alright, Dave hung up. 2 days later, Dave's mind was made up. Yeah, he decided going back to his uncle was, well, not the best option for him. Yes, he needed to make enough money and establish himself like he had planned, after which he would quit and focus on the business he must have set up for himself. The duo of Biola and Kola were glad he braved up, and they had decided to take Dave to Abeokuta in Ogun State, where they would meet the spiritual man for cleansing and perfection of good luck aura. The day Kola and Dave left Lagos for Abeokuta, they left very early in the morning to beat the usual Lagos traffic. Lagos and traffic are like 5 and 6, so they left around 6 a.m. But luckily for them, the traffic to Abeokuta was not ridiculous that Saturday morning. It was his first time in the city of Abeokuta. The sight along the natural areas through which Kola drove was such a beauty to behold. The trip allowed Dave to observe the trend of development along the road. The transition from urban to suburban and down to rural was clearly observed as they embarked on their cool journey. Kola and Biola sat at the front seat, while Dave sat relaxed at the back seat, like the car owner, observing the city as they drove past. He must say, Abeokuta is very fine city, and the governor deserves some accolades. Well, that was then. He can't say for now what the city looks like at the moment. Overall, it was a smooth trip from Lagos down here, and it was less than a 2-hour journey. Kola had halted at one major street that boomed with market women and men. He said he was hungry and needed to refill his belly, so he alighted and bought food for himself, for Biola and Dave as well, before they continued their journey to the said spiritual man for the proper cleansing and ritual like he had believed. However, the duo doesn't buy the word ritual. Kola said the Igbos call it awele, which enhances good luck and fortunes in one's life. He said some businessmen and women in Lagos also do it to make their businesses boom. Well, whatever. Today is the day Dave would find out, he said to himself. He didn't really get to converse with both of them throughout the trip. They were both having random chats while he admired the city in the back seat. They soon found themselves outside the city and down to a village outskirts of the town. And moments later, they arrived at Baba's house, an old blue painted bungalow house, surrounded with different flowers and herbs. Outside the house, they saw two clean cars parked there, a navy colored Avalon and SUV. Man, those cars really got Dave's attention as they stepped down from Cola's Lexus 350. So they came in and waited outside for the visitors to round up with Baba before they could go in. Kola and Biola stood there smoking loud while Dave was busy scrolling through his phone and hoping he wouldn't regret his decision. He was still bombing, keeping in touch with some of his clients, but none were willing to pay. He missed Smith and the sweet conversation they had. That man was such a beautiful soul. Well, na me fuck up. I wished I hadn't blocked him, Dave said. After about 25 minutes, they saw two huge men walk out of the room, which he presumed to be the owners of the two cars parked outside. Very tall and huge, body structures were like that of Don Jazzy. They had two rows of tattoos on their arms and looked more like music artists. When it was finally their turn, Kola took Dave in and saluted Baba with eulogies in the Yoruba dialect. Dave was just standing there like a moron. Kola went on to explain to Baba why he had brought Dave before him. He then left the two of them in the room. Biola was still outside smoking, Dave guessed. Dave's eyes caught some wet stuff scattered in the room, even though the room didn't smell bad, but the odor almost made him throw up. Sit down, my son, said Baba in Yoruba language. Thank God Dave could relate in Yoruba a bit, though he wasn't too conversant with the language, but he heard and spoke to some extent. Baba also sat directly opposite to Dave. He looked like someone in his late 50s with his pot belly and bowed head. He further explained that what he was about to do wouldn't involve bloodshed or killing of animals like other people do, but rather a spiritual process that would cleanse and pave way for Dave's success and grant him good fortunes, both in business, career, and whatever life endeavors he decides to venture into. He even went ahead to make reference to the popular saying of giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to him. He went on to say deeper things Dave didn't understand in Yoruba. What do you want from the oracle? What do you want the oracle to do for you? He demanded that Dave speak it into existence loud and clear. I want my clients to pay and bow to my commitment and command. Let them pay in thousands and millions. May they not think twice before considering my request and billing. He paused. Any other thing? He asked. No, Baba. Dave nodded his head. So shall it be, my son. I believe, Dave muttered. I like you.
There is something about your spirit. You will succeed, Baba said, staring into Dave's eyes. He was dumbfounded and didn't even know what to tell him. He then proceeded to tell Dave things he would do to make the words of his mouth effective and things that would defy it as well if care is not taken. He said it seems a bit easier, unlike what his colleagues and others are doing to maintain their wealth, though he never mentioned any to Dave. You know nothing good comes easily, he asked. Yes, go on, Dave said. First, I will make a portion for you. This portion will be in a calabash where no intruder will see it, he said, and Dave nodded his head in affirmation. So before you tell your client what you want, you must first speak it into the calabash, he cautioned, and Dave was paying rapt attention, even though his heart was beating faster. Secondly, to make your fortune work, you must sleep with a woman every week and you must release your semen on her and never will you sleep with her again, he cautioned. Damn, what kind of rule is this one? Dave had thought. When he thought he was done, he continued. And that is not all. You will also find a good girlfriend with whom you will use her good fortune to enhance yours, and you must take good care of her since she will never make it in life. She must not suffer because nothing good will ever come out of her and whoever she ends up with as her husband. Wow. Then finally, when the money comes, which must surely come, you will go to parties and public places where you spray and share money with people. Those who have good fortunes among the benefactors would have their good fortunes transferred to you, and you will never go down. And likewise, any businesses you ventured into. Hmm, what about those with bad fortunes? Will their bad luck come to me if they collect my money? Dave asked. Yes, it will, but the good news is that the ones with good fortunes will nullify the bad ones. So, you must make sure you share in a crowded environment to get a higher number of good fortunes. Dave kept mute and pondered. So, about the girlfriend, how will I know if she hasn't been used yet by someone else? You will know once you come in contact with such girl. Your inner spirit won't want to have anything to do with her. I mean, you will naturally dislike her, Baba explained. Meanwhile, all these were conversed in the Yoruba language. When all these are done, you shall return to please the oracle and share your testimony, he said, and let out a smile. Dave just giggled. He called Kola to come in, and that was when he went ahead to prepare the portion that would be in the calabash. It was around noon when they all eventually left Abeokuta after a successful visit to Baba. They left Abeokuta around noon. This time, Kola and Dave were seated in the front seat. Biola said he wanted to sleep, so he thought it was wise to stay at the back so he wouldn't subconsciously transfer the sleep to Kola, who was on wheels. So, this gave Kola and Dave the opportunity to converse while he drove on the tarred road. I'm sure you understood everything he instructed you, he asked. Sure I did, Dave replied lamely. He didn't want to go further because he assumed they were given a different task unlike his. Now you see, it's not rituals that involves killing a human being or animals, he said further. Yeah, Dave nodded his head repeatedly. But deep down, he felt like it was equal as killing a human being. Taking one's glory is equal to taking such a person's life. But then, the deed has been done, so he needed to brave up and face the war front. Kola later turned on a hip hop song, which filled the car with a lovely rhythm and vibe. Now, passing the same route they had followed, he was seeing those fine structures he had seen earlier while they were coming. He wished they could explore the town and probably leave the next day. He's the type that loves visiting new places. He loved adventures. He even captured some of the nice places they passed through for his viewing pleasure and for the sake of memories. Definitely, he would come back to see Baba when he finally hit it big. Maybe then he would have some time to explore the city of Abeokuta
and visit the Olumorok and other places he had always heard about. Their trip from Abeokuta to Lagos was more than 3 hours, unlike when they came. The traffic jam towards Lagos Road held them for almost 30 minutes. Well, glad they arrived safe and sound, without any form of hurt. The calabash he got from Baba was hidden inside a bag kept in the back seat where Biola sat. Throughout their trip on the road, Kola kept settling the policemen and other uniformed men on the highway. None of them had the opportunity to search inside the car. Some would see them and start hailing them immediately. We already know what they wanted, so Kola would give them as soon as he applied the brake. He had a bundle of 100 naira mints in his car, and Dave was sure they met up to 7 of them just from Ogun State back to Lagos. Back to Kola's apartment, Dave took the calabash in and kept it under the wardrobe. He took his bath and slept. Later in the night, Kola said it was worth celebrating and that they should go to a club in town. Meanwhile, all this while, Dave had nothing on him, but the duo were showing him love because he had succumbed to being like them. It would only take a week or weeks before he started making millions of naira, just like them. And that really kept him motivated. He couldn't wait to test and see if these things really work. Only time will tell. Time, they say, is a revealer. They got dressed for the night outing. Dave said to himself that he would use this opportunity to collect several contacts of girls that he would use to pave his way. Every one of them was looking sharp and dope on their expensive wares and shoes. They smelled good too. And before that night, they already had a sumptuous meal at Iyasiri's Bukateria. That was immediately they came back from Abeokuta. Iyasiri had been their regular customer anytime they didn't cook food at home. They left for the party around 9:30 p.m. and got there before 10 p.m. The party was strictly by invitation, so Kola was allowed to come in with 2 guests. So he went with Biola and Dave, and nobody disturbed them when they passed through the gates. The party was really giving and bubbled with excitement. Dave saw girls in skimpy clothes. Oh man, things are happening out there. Guys were there too. Not just random guys, men that have money and their girlfriends too. Dave was seated at one round table with Kola and Biola. Moments later, a pretty lady came and asked for what they would love to have. They sent their orders and she left to get them. When Dave looked up, he saw something glaring that caught his attention. He saw some men who were like few feet from their tables. Their table was filled with expensive wine like Jack Daniels and the rest of them, but that wasn't what really caught his attention. It was the beautiful fair girl sitting with them. She was looking hot, even though she wasn't the only girl at that table. She stole his heart with her enchanting face. He could look at her face forever. How far, guy? I like that girl. Dave tapped Biola. Which girl is that? He stopped pressing his phone and looked in Dave's direction. Look very well. That fair girl sitting between those 2 men. Kola stared at her intensively just to see if she could recognize her, and he actually did know her. Claire, that's her. The one on wig, right? He asked. Yeah, she's the one. Oh, okay. I think she came with Pablo and his crew. Well, that's Kola for you. He's that social butterfly who literally knows everyone. Pablo, a scuba or what? Dave asked jokingly. Fool. Pablo is just his nickname, he replied. Dave grinned. He then pointed the Pablo, who was right at the girl's left hand. He looked rich. Dave could see tattoo on his arms and 3 necklaces on his neck too. Bella said the dude was rich, and he told Dave a few stuff about him. Do you like her? He asked. Sure I do. She's my spec. She's too fine. I like them fair, he said, smiling sheepishly. I doubt if you can get this one, he said bluntly. Then came the server with a bottle of champagne and other expensive wine. He dropped them on the table, then got back to bring meat, chicken, and barbecue. Why won't I? Is she that special? Nope.
She might just snub you. I see. I know you feel she's above my league, but all those things are fake. She's for the streets and that's where she belongs. Dave shocked Biola. Wow, tell me more. You seem to know more about girls. Biola said and opened the champagne. Forget it. She only looked that way because of the event. She's likely a proper village girl. So chill. I will get her contact. Good luck. Biola replied sarcastically. Thank you, Dave said. Kola had been busy with his phone, probably keeping in touch with his client. He later joined them to drink and eat their assorted meat, chicken and barbecue. Let's say about 30 minutes later, Dave sighted Claire. This time she was standing, and that was when he got to see her full structure. The girl was endowed, front and back. Her physique was really alluring. Dave can't even describe how good she looked in her skimpy sleeveless blue gown. He had goosebumps staring at her. She's that kind of a girl men call full option, doctor's prescription. She was probably going to the restroom, Dave guessed, so he waited for some seconds before he stood and traced her. Yes, he was right. She had just entered one of the restrooms when he got there, so he stood outside patiently, waiting for her to come out. When finally she did, she was frightened to see Dave standing. I'm sorry, I know I scared you, right? Of course you did. I saw you seated there. Why did you follow me? She asked, staring into Dave's eyes. He could have averted his eyes, but no, he stared into her eyes too. She eventually looked away. Who doesn't like good things? Dave teased her. Dave understood women to some extent, and some, if not most, always fall flatters. They like being told how good they look and all that. Like they say, women are moved by what they hear, while men are moved by what they see. Dave went on to tease her and called her beautiful names. He read books a lot, so his vocabulary was not limited. In a few seconds, he already wowed her, and he knew that. I like the way you speak. And you smell good too, she complimented. Dave appreciated her. Well, he proved Biola's belief wrong. He ended up collecting her number, dialed it right before her, and watched her save his own number as Dave. I'm Claire, she told Dave. Nice meeting you. Dave pretended like he didn't know her name earlier. She smiled and left to meet her guys. Dave stayed back for a few minutes before returning to meet Biola and Kola, and that was the girl who eventually became his girlfriend. He stole her from Pablo, and it was worth it. A street girl would always be a street girl, nothing special. In the next episode, I will tell you how Dave used Claire to achieve his goal. Thank you for watching this episode of The Cry of a Yahoo Boy. If you liked it, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, and turn on the post notification to get notified whenever we post new video. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the final episode.